There are individuals born into turmoil, seemingly destined to be buried by history, only to rise and become eternal symbols. Elizabeth I is one such figure. When she was born in 1533, she was not welcomed as a hope for the Tudor dynasty, but as a disappointment her father. Henry VIII longed for a prince to inherit the throne, but her mother, Anne Boleyn, gave birth to a girl just 2 years later. Her mother was executed, and Elizabeth was stripped of her title as princess, marked as an legitimate child. In the eyes of many, she had no worth except as a political pawn, a shadow in the treacherous court. However, it was from this barren land that Elizabeth grew strong. She learned to observe, to remain silent when needed, and to survive in times when a single mistake could lead to death. No one could have predicted that the girl, who had been looked down upon, would rise to become one of the greatest queens in human history. Today, we will explore the journey of Elizabeth I, from the rejected child to the legendary Virgin Queen, who ushered in England's glorious golden age. This story will not only astonish you, but also make you ask yourself, what made this solitary woman, full of pride and strength, so extraordinarily powerful? Elizabeth I was born in a magnificent palace, but her childhood was full of irreparable cracks. When Elizabeth was just 2 years old, her mother, Anne Boleyn, was executed for treason. From that moment, Elizabeth lost both her mother and her title as princess, becoming a child viewed with suspicion by the very court that once adored her. She was no longer a symbol of hope, but simply a name, beyond the love of her father and the trust of power. Yet instead of succumbing, Elizabeth learned to grow in silence. She immersed herself in books, learning many languages, studying politics and philosophy, training herself to be different from what people had labeled. Her childhood, overshadowed by fear and loneliness, became the foundation for a resilient spirit and a sharp intellect. Elizabeth knew that to survive in a world full of betrayal and cold-heartedness, she had to know when to hide and when to shine. And from those dark days, a queen with iron will was born. The path that led Elizabeth to the throne was not lined with roses, but rather a journey of life and death. After the death of Edward VI, her half-sister Mary Thirst ascended the throne. In Mary's eyes, Elizabeth, a Protestant, was always a covert threat. She was imprisoned in the Tower of London, a place where countless people entered and never returned. A single accusation of treason could cost Elizabeth her life at any moment, but she remained steadfast, cautious, and skillfully survived through those dark years. When Mary died in 1558, Elizabeth emerged from the shadows and took the crown amid the joy of the people. From a girl once looked down upon, she became the hope of a nation, torn by division and unrest. That moment was not just her coronation, but the beginning of a great mission to heal a fractured country and lead it into a new era. Elizabeth understood that the throne she held was not just glory, but a responsibility that came at the cost of blood. tears and solitude. When Elizabeth I ascended to the throne, she faced a deeply divided nation. Religious conflicts simmered like an ember, ready to erupt into a storm at any moment. Catholics saw her as a usurper, while Protestants placed their hopes in her protection. A single misstep could cost her the throne, or even her life, not only within England. But powerful foreign forces, like Spain and France, also eyed the country, seeing England as a weak prey to be devoured. In such a precarious situation, Elizabeth chose the path of compromise. She was neither extreme nor weak, but skillfully established a flexible, religious foundation, just enough to reassure the Protestants, while not entirely severing ties with Catholicism. This decision not only secured her throne, but also laid the groundwork for long-term stability in the nation. The pressure weighed heavily on the shoulders of this solitary woman, but Elizabeth turned the challenge into an opportunity. She proved to both her people and her enemies that she was no mere puppet queen, but a leader capable of steering England's ship through turbulent waters. Elizabeth first understood that to hold the throne, she needed diplomacy over brute force. Domestically, she built an image of a strong yet approachable queen, using intelligence and resilience to win the hearts of her people. She encouraged trade, expanded maritime endeavors, and created opportunities for explorers to take England to the world. The economy began to prosper, and the people's trust in the throne grew. In foreign relations, Elizabeth did not seek direct confrontation, but expertly balanced the power dynamics between major European nations. Spain and France loomed as constant threats, but she used marriage as a political tool, extending negotiations without binding herself. She chose to maintain the title of Virgin Queen, turning it into a symbol of independence and power, rather than a vulnerability. Her clear-headedness helped keep England steadfast. In a Europe full of turmoil, she proved that without a male king, and without a political marriage, England could still be led by the intellect, willpower, and vision of a resilient woman. In 1588, England faced its greatest test. During Elizabeth's reign, the mighty Spanish Armada, the most formidable naval force in Europe at the time. To many, the prospect of failure seemed inevitable, as the English navy was smaller and far less experienced. But in that moment of danger, Elizabeth became the flame that ignited a national spirit. She rode out to the troops at Tilbury and declared, "I have the body of a weak woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too." Her words resonated, inspiring confidence in her troops. With strategic brilliance, the English fleet utilized small, agile ships and took advantage of adverse weather conditions to defeat the massive armada. The battle ended in a resounding victory, not only saving England from invasion, but also elevating the nation's status from a small kingdom to a maritime superpower. The victory over Spain was not just a battle. It was a testament to Elizabeth's will and exceptional leadership. She didn't just defend her throne. She etched her name into history as a queen of courage and conviction. The victory over the Spanish Armada ushered in a new era for England, known as the Golden Age, under the reign of Elizabeth I. It was a period where the nation not only grew strong militarily, but also shone in culture, the arts, and national spirit. The theater became a center of creativity, with figures like William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe illuminating the literary world, leaving masterpieces that still resonate today. Not only in the arts, but maritime exploration and trade also flourished. The voyages of Francis Drake and Walter Raleigh opened new pathways for England's influence to expand across the world. In the eyes of the people, Elizabeth was not just a reigning queen, but a symbol of confidence, pride, and the desire to conquer. Under Elizabeth's reign, the English, for the first time, felt that their small country could stand alongside the great empires of Europe. It was not just a time of accomplishments, but also a moment when England discovered its identity. A united, creative nation ready to step into the new age. In the later years of Elizabeth I's life, the brilliance of her reign began to fade. Despite being hailed as the Virgin Queen and a symbol of national strength, beneath her proud exterior lay a quiet loneliness. Without a husband or children, Elizabeth sacrificed personal happiness to maintain the independence of the throne. Yet this choice left her with long, empty nights as the court slowly saw fewer close companions. As she grew older, Elizabeth became increasingly withdrawn. She avoided looking in mirrors, not wanting to see the image of a queen past her prime. She tried to maintain a strong image in front of her people, but inside, she was haunted by the fear of her eventual departure and the void she would leave behind. When she passed away in 1603, England mourned a queen who had led them through their greatest period of glory. But the sense of loss was palpable as the Tudor dynasty came to an end. Elizabeth closed her life as she had lived it, proud, determined, but also profoundly lonely. And it is this contradiction that makes her story one of the most haunting and memorable in history, securing her place as one of the greatest figures in history. The legacy Elizabeth first left behind transcends the time in which she reigned. She not only held the throne through turbulent years, but also transformed England into a rising power, confidently standing alongside the great empires of Europe. Her era, known as the Golden Age, is remembered not only for military victories and economic prosperity, but also for the flourishing of art, culture, and the spirit of exploration. Elizabeth created a new national identity for the English people, one tied to pride, discipline, and the ambition to reach beyond their shores. More importantly, Elizabeth became a symbol of the strength of women in a world dominated by male-dominated views. She proved that intelligence and resilience could be more important than bloodline or gender. The image of the Virgin Queen was not just a political strategy. but a declaration of independence and pride from a woman who chose to place her country above her personal happiness. Today, when we speak of Elizabeth I, we do not just remember a queen, but an eternal symbol, a testament that even in the face of adversity, unwavering willpower can alter the fate of an entire nation. The story of Elizabeth I closes like a melody, both tragic and brilliant. From a child once seen as illegitimate, she became one of the greatest queens in human history. She reigned for nearly half a century, leading the nation through peril, laying the foundation for a prosperous age, and instilling a national pride that had never before been felt. Elizabeth proved that the true power of a leader lies not in blood or gender, but in vision, intellect, and determination. Yet, beneath that glory was a woman filled with loneliness, sacrificing personal happiness for the enduring strength of the nation. This paradox makes the image of Elizabeth I so haunting a great queen, but also a woman who carried the most empty spaces within her. Perhaps it is these contrasts that made her a legend, an icon that transcends time. Elizabeth I is not just a chapter in history. She is a mirror of resilience and will. She leaves us with a lesson in any adversity. As long as we hold on to faith and determination, we can rewrite our fate and the fate of our nation. So do you think Elizabeth I is the greatest monarch in the Tudor dynasty? Or was she simply a fortunate woman who happened to be in the right place at the right time in history? Share your thoughts in the comments so everyone can discuss. And if you enjoy these emotional and dramatic historical stories, don't forget to subscribe to Cryptic History to support the channel. Your continued support will motivate us to keep bringing exciting episodes, unraveling mysteries, and exploring the tragedies that have shaken the world.